She was cleaning the Apache's gun, then the pilot discovered an incredible hidden patch that changed everything. The thunderous roar echoed across the small town of Santa Rosa, New Mexico, like a battle cry from the past. Lisa Hernandez paused, her hands frozen over the worn surface of her kitchen table where her father's old Apache gun lay. As a single mother juggling 2 jobs, each day was a fight for survival, but the weight of this moment felt heavier than any she had faced before. She could hear the distant wail of sirens and the murmur of concerned neighbors outside. Something profound was happening, and she could sense it in her bones. Her father, Miguel, a Vietnam veteran, had lived with the shadows of war for years. The soft grinding sound of metal against wood brought him to the living room, his face pinched with confusion. "What's that noise, Lisa?" he asked, eyes darting to the window, haunted by ghosts that never seemed to leave him. "It's just some commotion, Dad," she replied, her heart catching in her throat. She clenched the gun tighter, a family relic whose history seemed to hold secrets. Her father sighed, a weary sound that echoed through the years of sacrifice his and theirs. As she polished the gun, memories flooded back, his stories of courage, of loss, of heartache that stretched like the desert sky above them. Just then, a neighbor rushed in, winded and frantic. A plane crashed on the outskirts. He shouted, eyes wide. Mark Collins was on the scene. Mark Collins, town hero, skilled pilot, and the kind of man that made folks in Santa Rosa puff with pride. Lisa couldn't help but feel a swell of mixed emotions. His patriotism shone bright, but the darkness in her father's eyes reminded her of the bitterness that lurked behind glory. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A few hours later, reports trickled in. Mark had found something amidst the wreckage, a forgotten Apache gun buried deep in the earth, and attached to it, a faded patch of fabric, bearing a symbol etched in his memory. He rubbed it with his fingers and felt an unfamiliar rush. It tied him to a past he scarcely understood, a patch that spoke of struggle, of shared pain, and dark histories intertwined. As townspeople gathered to gossip and speculate, Lisa felt a knot tighten in her chest. The gun sparked emotion, igniting debate over sacrifices made and the looming prejudices they shared. In the barbershop, voices mingled like knives in a duel. Some praised Mark, while others whispered slurs against those like Miguel, who fought for their country yet returned with wounds that ran deeper than skin. Lisa knew this was more than just an accident. It was a chance to confront the ghosts they all carried. As she stood on the brink of a transformative moment, she felt the heart of her father's struggles pulse against her own. The question loomed in the air: could they bridge their divides, anchoring the past to their future, or remain entangled in webs of old prejudices that history fed into? Hope flickered, but the weight of those buried secrets pressed down like the desert sun. Would the town learn to unite, or would they remain haunted by the shadows of their shared past? As Lisa took a deep breath, she grasped the gun firmly, ready to face a reckoning that echoed far beyond her family solo, but resounded for the entire community. Lisa's heart raced as she clutched the gun, each breath becoming a battle between her instinct to protect her father and her growing desire to confront the truth. There was more to that patch, buried beneath years of pain and silence, and she knew it held the key to understanding her family's past, perhaps even her own future. Outside, the whispers of the town had turned to shouts, families gathering on porches, eyes cast toward the horizon where the wreckage still smoldered. Lisa caught snippets of conversations, questions about Mark's motives, fears about what the gun represented. It wasn't he just a tool of war. It was a symbol, a legacy woven with threads of glory and grief. Why can't they see it? She muttered under her breath, frustration boiling over. Before she could think, she stepped outside, her father's old gun still in hand, determination blazing in her eyes. She recalled stories of veterans returning home, met with both cheers and jeers, the duality of pride and shame existing side by side. "Lisa!" a voice called, slicing through her thoughts. It was Mark. Dusty but intact after the crash, his presence hovered like a specter of those who fought and survived. "I need to talk to you." She felt her heart sink. Talk? The town was buzzing like a hive, but would he be willing to face the truth that loomed over them? He approached, face earnest, eyes reflecting the chaos of the moment. "Look, I know this is heavy," he began, gesturing to the gathered crowd, "but we have a chance to turn this around. To use this moment to heal." "I can't heal what's buried deep down," Lisa shot back, feeling the sting of his words mixed with her pain. "What do you know about it?" "More than you think," he replied, his voice steady. "That patch there's a whole story behind it. One that involves your father. I can help you uncover it." Curiosity sparked, but suspicion followed too. "Why now? After all these years?" "Because it's time we faced it. All of us. Not as enemies, but as a community." Around them, people were drawn in, their faces a mix of shock and intrigue. Lisa felt the weight of their stares. The air thickened with unspoken fears, the kind that made hearts race and silence linger. It was uncharted territory, opening old wounds with every word spoken. But could they really heal those wounds? Could the town reconcile the pride they felt for their soldiers with the pain they inflicted upon each other? As she gazed around at the familiar faces that had known her since childhood, she saw flickers of understanding, of shared yearning. "All right." The word came out stronger than she felt. "Let us uncover the truth. Together." Cheers erupted from the crowd, but Lisa felt a chill run down her back. She hoped this was a step toward unity, yet doubts clawed at her. What if the revelations only dug deeper divides? What if the stories told were too painful to bear? Mark met her gaze, determination etched on his face. "We'll face it together, Lisa. Just like our fathers did." With the future hanging in the balance, Lisa nodded. They were stepping into darkness, but sometimes the only way forward was through it. She hoped their journey would illuminate the way, healing split souls and stitching fractured history. As they turned, ready to face the past, a shadow eclipsed the sun, the silhouette of a military plane arcing into the sky. Lisa's heart sank. There was more to come, and it was closer than they thought. What would that plane bring, and how would it alter their fragile path toward healing? The roar of the plane overhead sliced through the murmur of the crowd, pulling Lisa back to the moment. It felt like a warning, a reminder that there were still battles to be fought. Her hands tightened around the gun as she turned her gaze toward Mark. The determination on his face mixed with anxiety, as if they both understood that the next steps they took could rewrite everything. "What's happening?" someone from the crowd shouted, breaking the thick tension. Eyes widened as people pointed at the plane, concern etched in their faces. It was a familiar sight. The military presence always stirred unease, especially in a town that had lost so many to war. Mark stepped forward, raising a hand to calm the gathering swarm. "Let us take this chance to talk about what we've all been through. The past doesn't have to define us," he called out, his voice strong but tinged with urgency. Lisa felt the heat of a dozen eyes on her. Everyone waited. She was torn between her instincts to defend her father and the need to understand her family's history. The gun felt heavier in her hands. It suddenly felt less like a weapon and more like a bridge to her father's forgotten stories. "Let us go to the old community center," Lisa suggested, surprising even herself. It had been a place of laughter and community gatherings. Now it held the ghosts of what once was. If they were to peel back the layers of pain, it was only fitting to start in a place that held so many memories. The crowd slowly moved, streaming toward the center. Lisa, flanked by Mark, felt a sense of camaraderie building. Together, they were navigating through shared histories, fears, and inherited traumas. The whispers transformed into a low hum of shared voices, echoing the uncertainty and hope. Once inside, the room was dim but familiar. The walls were adorned with faded banners from past events, remnants of happiness clinging to the corners. Lisa took a deep breath, centering herself as she surveyed the faces, each one a reflection of small-town resilience. "We need to address what happened out there," Mark said, breaking the silence as they gathered around a makeshift circle of chairs. It's not just about the crash or the gun. It's bigger than that. We all carry stories of loss and bravery. But we've kept them locked away. A silence fell. Lisa glanced at the floor, heart racing. My dad, he never talked. He told me stories of war, but they never mentioned the pain. Her voice wavered, vulnerability pouring through her. I don't know what to believe anymore. The crowd shifted, leaning in, eager for truth. A woman from the back, teary-eyed, spoke up. Many of us carried the weight. We buried stories we thought would protect us, but all they did was bury the truth. Lisa's throat tightened. This was the moment of unearthing, of shared burdens, where the weight of silence could finally be lifted. Mark turned towards Lisa, his eyes steady and sincere. You have the gun, and it holds your father's memories. What if we use what it represents to heal? Emotion twisted in Lisa's chest. The gun wasn't just a weapon, it was a conduit. A connection to a past that needed recognition, a bridge to healing. She nodded slowly, the idea wrapping around her heart like a warm embrace. Let us tell those stories. Let us give a voice to the silence. As the murmurs grew louder, Lisa felt a flicker of hope. But even as their hearts swelled with newfound strength, the distant hum of another plane rumbled outside, a reminder that the past was not far behind. What awaited them next, and would they truly be ready to face it? As the murmurs grew, Lisa took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the room pressing down on her shoulders. Mark gestured for everyone to gather closer, and she could sense the energy shifting. It was palpable fear mingled with anticipation, and perhaps a glimmer of hope. Let us start with the truth, he said, his voice low but steady, cutting through the tension. Who wants to share their story? We're all carrying something. An elderly man, his hair a snowy white, slowly rose from his chair. The crowd quieted. I fought in the same war your father did, Lisa, he began, his words heavy with years. But I came back changed. I watched my friends die. We thought we were protecting our home, but the memories, they haunt me still. Lisa felt a lump forming in her throat. The man's face was lined with sorrow, a map of pain etched deep in his features. We thought sharing meant weakness. But it's the silence that suffocates us. More people stood to share, stories spilled out like glittering shards of glass. Each tale was unique yet connected by threads of trauma and regret. A woman recounted the night she lost her brother, another shared how her mother had waited in vain for her father to return. Lisa's heart raced. With every story, she felt the walls around her heart breaking down. Was this what healing felt like? A community opening up, inviting her into the struggle of their truth? The gun she clutched now felt like a lifeline, a piece of her father's past struggling to emerge. That's when a young girl, no older than 10, stepped forward. Her brown eyes were wide and innocent as she spoke. I don't know much about war, but I know what pain is, she said softly. My daddy is gone. He come back, and Mommy says he is a hero. But sometimes heroes don't come home. A collective breath caught in the room. The girl's honesty pierced through the heaviness like a beam of sunlight. Lisa's chest tightened, tears threatened to spill over. Mark cleared his throat, glancing at Lisa, and back at the crowd. Everyone's stories matter. We can't sweep them under the rug anymore. We will honor them by sharing. By remembering. As the group continued to share, Lisa felt a warmth growing inside her, igniting a fire of purpose. These voices, each one telling its own tale, created a symphony of hope, transforming their pain into purpose. But just as the atmosphere grew lighter, another roar of a plane echoed outside. The sound was menacing now, a reminder that their fight wasn't over. Mark's expression shifted as he exchanged glances with Lisa. Do you think they're coming for us? Someone whispered, fear spreading like wildfire among the crowd. Lisa's mind raced. What if they were? Would sharing their pain be enough to protect them? Maybe it's not just about us. Lisa started, standing taller. Maybe it's about showing them we refuse to stay silent. Her voice rang with newfound strength, rallying the faces around her. The crowd nodded, courage kindling in their eyes. But as they began to resonate with her, the distant thrum of the plane drew closer, darkening the room with uncertainty. "What are we going to do?" Mark asked, stepping beside her, his face a mix of determination and dread. As the walls began to vibrate with the sound of impending danger, Lisa realized they had a decision to make. They could confront their fears together or let the shadows of the past consume them once more. "Let us finish this," Lisa declared, gripping the gun tighter. "If they want a fight, we'll give them one, but let us make it our story." With their hearts pounding and resolve set, they prepared for whatever lay beyond the doors. Yet, deep inside, Lisa heard a voice whispering, was this the resolve they sought, or the beginning of a battle with far greater stakes? Would they truly be able to stand together when the real fight began? The tension in the room crackled like static electricity. Every breath felt charged. Lisa glanced around at the faces surrounding her. They were ready. The girl's innocent words still echoed in her mind, "Sometimes heroes don't come home." Did she really want to be a hero, or was she just angry? Mark positioned himself at the door, his muscles rigid under the weight of their shared anticipation. "We need a plan," he said, urgency brushing his tone. Talking was no longer enough. Action was necessary. "What can we do?" came a voice from the back. It was a middle-aged woman, with tired eyes that reflected years of sorrow. "We're just civilians. They have weapons. We're outnumbered." "Maybe we are outnumbered," Mark replied, his voice steady. "But together, we're stronger than they think. We have something they don't: resolve." Lisa felt the fire in her chest flare into flames. "This isn't just about defending ourselves. It's about taking back our voices. It's about standing together against fear." "Right," another voice chimed in. "If we show them that we won hide, we'll take away their power." The energy shifted again, rekindled and strong. The sound of the plane hand disappeared. It roared as if mocking them, creeping ever closer. Was it even looking for them? Fear clawed at the corners of Lisa's heart. The thought of loss weighed heavier than the gun she held. Suddenly, a young man in the crowd spoke up. "My uncle was a mechanic. He taught me how to disable aircraft systems. If we can get the plane to land, we could get their power." Lisa finished his thought, a spark igniting in her mind. "But how do we lure them here?" Mark leaned closer to her, his eyes brightening with a mix of desperation and hope. "We could cause a distraction. Something big enough to pull their focus from what we're doing. We create noise, smoke, something that'll draw them in." "Like a flare?" someone suggested, their voice rising over others. Lisa felt the fire within her roar. "Yes. A flare. If we set one off on the roof, it'll signal for help and attract the plane's attention. While they're busy trying to figure out what's going on, we can carry out our plan." Around her, people shifted, hope mingling with urgency. They began to murmur amongst themselves, bouncing ideas back and forth, each contribution building the possibility of action. "Okay, let us split up," Mark instructed. "We'll need people to gather supplies and others to get up to the roof. We're not just going to sit here in fear." As they organized, Lisa's heart raced. Each heartbeat echoed the realization that they were on the edge of something monumental, not just a fight for survival, but a reclaiming of their purpose. But as they prepared to move, the roar of the plane shifted again, now overhead, darkening the room like an ominous cloud. They turned, and Lisa couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, their steps heavy with the weight of dangers yet unseen. There was an unmistakable sense of determination swirling in the room, but also the heaviness of doubt. "Are we sure about this?" someone whispered, uncertainty creeping in as shadows seemed to grow longer. She felt the weight of the gun, her father's gun, still trembling in her hand. Would she really pull that trigger to fight back? "Tonight, we fight for our stories to be heard," Lisa cried, igniting a momentum through the group. "We cannot let fear take our voices. Not now." And as they prepared to unleash their plan, an unexpected sound broke through the hum of possibility. A sharp screech echoed from outside, a sound so close that it reverberated in their souls, and suddenly feelings of tension moved from their hearts to their throats. Had their moment come without warning? The group paused. Breathless and electrified, they crowded around the window, hearts racing as dread mixed with the energy of adrenaline. Look! Mark pointed trembling fingers at the night sky. What awaited them just outside? In a world of uncertainty, had they just sparked a fire too hot to control? The commotion outside grew louder, the screech transforming into a thundering roar that churned the air. Lisa and the others leaned closer to the window, eyes strained as they scanned the night sky. They caught glimpses of the dark silhouette of the plane, its imposing form cutting through the moonlight like a phantom. What if they see us? Someone in the back whispered, the urgency in their voice echoing the fear whispered in their hearts. No, no. Mark shook his head, a fierce look hardening his features. We're not going to let fear stop us now. Remember why we're doing this. Keep your eyes on the prize. Lisa felt bolstered by his words, but the gnawing doubt still lingered. What would happen when they were finally face to face with their adversaries? She couldn't ignore the weight of the gun in her hand. Okay, listen, she called out, raising her voice, commanding attention. We split up. Mark, you take a group to the roof for the flare. I'll stay here and organize the supplies we need. We have to move fast and stay focused. The urgency accelerated their actions. People sprang into motion, legs trembling with anxiety but fueled by purpose. Several folks gathered around Mark, ready to follow him up the creaky stairs, while others helped Lisa to gather makeshift weapons and supplies scattered around the room. With every passing moment, adrenaline surged through Lisa's veins. She felt like a storm, building up strength, ready to unleash the tempest when the time came. And then, with a suddenness that sent chills down her spine, the sky flashed. An explosion of light erupted, blinding yet invigorating. The flare. Sparks and flares lit the horizon as Mark and the others erupted onto the rooftop, desperately working to make their presence known. Lisa's heart hammered. The boom faded, but the echoes of their actions were clear. They were drawing attention. The plane veered, its massive body pivoting in the air while shadows flickered below. Now! Mark's voice cut through the chaos. Out of nowhere, the sense of inevitability struck her. It was an indescribable feeling, a mix of fear, hope, and defiance. Gather what you can! Be quick! She shouted, her voice trembling but steady. She was in the zone. This was her moment, and with every breath, she felt the flames of resolve burn brighter. From outside, the sounds intensified: shouts, revving engines, footsteps rampant on the ground. Lisa's eyes widened as she realized they were not alone. Athwart the distant shadows, figures moved. Are they coming? Someone asked. Panic seeped into their voice. No, we're not letting fear take our voices, Lisa admonished. We need to turn this around. Courage surged within her, and she felt motivated to rally the crowd. If we're going down fighting. Let us take back what they've stolen. They nodded, hope ignited in the air, filling them with determination. But then, just as she thought they were about to charge forward, a blast shattered the night. The room shook, glass shattered, and the air turned heavy with dust. Lisa ducked instinctively, the gun nearly slipping from her hands as fear flooded back in a tidal wave. Get down! She screamed, but it wasn't just the walls that were shaking. The ground was rumbling, and they could hear the thuds of boots outside, loud and insistent. With her heart racing and breaths quickening, she gathered herself. What now? Should they stay or run? Desperation clawed at her chest as shouts pierced the air, blending confusion and terror. The tension in the room was palpable, a line drawn thin between survival and surrender. Lisa! Mark yelled, his expression grim yet resolute. We need to decide. Now! What would they do next? Lisa felt a fracture form in her resolve. Were they truly ready to face whatever was coming? And as chaos swirled around them, a new thought consumed her: what if the fight was just beginning? The blast of the explosion still echoed in the corners of Lisa's mind as she clutched the gun tighter, her knuckles turning white. Dust settled like a shroud, making it hard to see. The shadows outside grew darker, creeping closer with every second, and the pounding of boots grew louder, like a distant thunderstorm approaching. "Lisa, we have to move!" Mark shouted, urgency lacing his voice. He was at the door now, eyes scanning the hallway beyond. A part of her wanted to scream to stay, to fight right where they were. But another part knew they couldn't stay trapped like caged animals. "Okay," she yelled back, her voice surprisingly steady despite the brewing storm around them. "We go out through the back. They won't expect us to head in that direction." An unexpected shout startled her. "What about the others?" someone asked, fear clawing at their throat. Lisa didn't have time to answer. "Anyone who can stand, you're with me," she called, already moving toward the back exit. The noise outside became more chaotic, more frantic. The realization hit her: they were alive and they had a choice. In this moment of marching dread, she felt a thread of hope woven through her determination. One by one, her group followed, adrenaline pushing them forward. They slipped through the door, Lisa leading the charge, feeling the cool night air against her skin, invigorating. She paused for a heartbeat just outside. "Come on! Stay close!" she urged, ready to descend into the shadows. But as they crept through the narrow alley behind the building, the weight of what lay ahead crashed upon her again. It wasn't just a fight for survival. It was the fight against the very things that had chained them down for so long. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the misty darkness. Lisa jumped back, gun raised, heart pounding in her throat. "Identify yourself," she shouted, voice steady but laced with challenge. "Lisa, it's me." It was Jenna, her old friend, breathless and wide-eyed, barely recognizable in the chaos. Relief surged through Lisa, but there was no time to dwell on it. "What is happening?" she asked urgently. Jenna looked behind her, wide-eyed and frantic. "They've immobilized the surrounding area. We need to move fast." Just as Jenna spoke, the sound of shouts erupted. Shadows swarmed around the alley, silhouettes closing in. "Here!" Mark grabbed Lisa's arm. "This way!" He led them around a corner, into another corridor cluttered with debris. They ducked down, trying to keep quiet, hearts racing as they listened to the frantic chatter. The adrenaline started to slip, replaced by an oddly calm realization. They were out now, moving freely, and somewhere in this chaos, they had to find a breakthrough. Lisa looked at the faces around her, fear and determination mixing like a storm brewing. Every heart was beating toward the hope of freedom. As they maneuvered through the maze, Lisa's mind raced. The plan needed to solidify as shadows continued to chase them. They could no longer afford to run blind. "We have to regroup and decide our next move," Lisa said, rallying the group's spirit. "We need answers, and a way to strike back." Then, out of nowhere, a brilliant light erupted from the sky. The flare Mark had launched earlier ignited beyond the rooftops, cutting through the dark, illuminating the night. Lisa squinted up, and at that moment, it felt like a sign. "Look!" Jenna pointed. "That could lead us." "Follow the light!" Lisa shouted, her voice ringing clear. She bounded forward, feeling the fire of purpose ignite within her, pushing them toward their destiny. But in the consuming thrill of it all, the question lingered, heavy in the air: would they find salvation under that light, or would they fall deeper into the clutches of their pursuers? The flare cast an eerie glow over the alley, revealing bricks marked by time and turmoil. Lisa felt the heat of the moment, pulsing with the rhythm of her heartbeat. Shadows danced against the walls, twisting into shapes that made her stomach churn. But she couldn't focus on the fear. "Not now. Stick together," she commanded again, her voice breaking through the cacophony of her racing mind. Each breath they took whispered promises of survival, but doubt lingered like a storm cloud overhead. Under the flare's illumination, they made their way down the corridor, the clatter of footsteps echoing behind them. Lisa turned to Jenna, who seemed more shaken than before. "What do you know about the layout ahead?" she asked, gauging her friend's mental state. Jenna shook her head, panic flashing in her eyes. "Not much, but I think there's an old subway entrance a few streets over." "We could then that's our goal," Lisa interrupted, adrenaline fueling her resolve. "We get to that subway. It's our ticket out. Mark glanced back, urgency flickering across his features. We need a distraction. We can't let them close in on us. He motioned towards some urban refuse stacked along the side of the alley, a dumpster, a mountain of debris. I'll set something off and buy us time. You guys take off. Mark, no! Lisa exclaimed, her heart squeezing at the thought of losing him. It's the only way. I'll catch up, he insisted, already positioning himself near the loudest part of the junk. He shot her one last look, full of reassurance and a determination that ignited a spark in her chest. Go! Lisa hesitated only for a moment before pushing forward, Jenna on her heels. They sprinted through the maze, clinging to the light above them like a lifeline, dodging shadows that flitted across their path. Each corner they turned seemed to lead to nowhere, but Lisa's mind remained laser-focused. There was a determination mingling with desperation, a fire growing in her belly. They were fighting for their existence, after all. Suddenly, behind them, the crack of explosives pierced the night, a diversion for the ages. Instinctively, Lisa pressed forward, trusting Mark's instincts. The echoes of chaos around them intensified, chaotic shouts mixing with the crackling of incendiary sounds. It was terrifying yet invigorating. Keep moving! Lisa shouted, urging Jenna to pick up the pace. Sweat trickled down her back, but she felt alive, the rush reminding her of everything they had suffered just to get here. Then, a moment of stillness broke through. They caught sight of the subway entrance, a dark maw beckoning them into the unknown. As they approached, a loud shout fractured the air from behind. It sent a chill down Lisa's spine. They're right behind us. Go! Jenna screamed, her voice raw with fear. With a final surge, they reached the entrance and dove into the darkness, dragging each other down the rickety steps. The world outside faded, replaced by the overwhelming scent of mold and steel. But there was no safe haven, even here. Breathless, they hit the bottom with a dull thud, Lauren's mind racing as she tried to strategize. If we can go further, and she started, but then froze. The faint sound of footsteps echoed somewhere in the distance. Quick! Hide! Jenna hissed, and they scrambled to find a nook among the debris littered throughout the tunnel. Lisa tucked herself behind a wall, heart pounding. The shuffling grew louder, and she felt the weight of the world crashing in on them. Time felt like it slowed, every heartbeat echoing like a drum, but perhaps they had a chance. This wasn't just a battle for survival. This was also a struggle for hope, freedom, and everything they had lost. Then a thought struck her: what if the shadows lurking above were just the beginning of something bigger? Something only they could face together? As the footsteps drew near, she closed her eyes, steeling herself for whatever came next. Would courage be enough to pull them through, or would the dark forces outside snuff out their light? The answer loomed heavily, like the darkness surrounding them. A silence hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Lisa felt the vibrations of footsteps reverberating off the damp walls, each step a ticking clock counting down their fate. She pressed herself into the shadows, the darkness providing a false sense of safety that only deepened the tension in her gut. Jenna crouched beside her, trembling. What if they find us? Her voice was barely a whisper, heavy with fear. Lisa cast a glance at her friend. We won't let that happen. We just need to stay quiet. Seconds stretched into what felt like hours. The footsteps echoed closer, muffled voices weaving in and out of clarity. Lisa strained to catch fragments of conversation, hoping for a clue that would help them escape. Lost them, didn't he go far, keep searching. Her heart raced. They were being hunted, and now more than ever they had to think. The footsteps stopped, and Lisa held her breath. Shadows shifted outside, flickering in the dim light from above, the flares still illuminating the chaos above ground. She glanced at Jenna, whose eyes were wide with unacknowledged terror. Then, a harsh laugh broke the stillness, a sound that sent shivers down Lisa's spine. Come on, this way! They can't go far. God, Jenna murmured, her voice trembling. What are we going to do? Follow my lead. Lisa's tone was steady, even as uncertainty clawed at her mind. We need to move deeper into the subway. There are tunnels, maybe another way out. Before Jenna could respond, Lisa grabbed her arm and pulled her further down the tunnel. Each step felt heavy, their breaths mingling with the dank air. They hurried past rusting pipes and forgotten remnants of the past. The tunnels were dark, the kind of dark that made you feel like you weren't alone, even if the shadows were merely illusions. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed behind them, sending a jolt through Lisa's body. They've found something. She gasped, urgency igniting her movements. We need to hurry. Fast. Jenna urged, fear sharpening her voice. As they raced down a fissured corridor, Lisa spotted a flicker of light in the distance. Hope. Over there, she said, pointing. That might lead us to the surface. But as they drew closer, a low rumble filled the air, vibrating beneath their feet. The ground shook slightly, the sound growing louder. What is that? Jenna asked, eyes wide. Not sure, but we can't stop now. They pressed on. The light ahead pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing them in. When they reached it, they found a broken door leading to what appeared to be an old electrical room. Lisa hesitated at the threshold, unsure of what lay beyond. Is it safe? Jenna asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. We have to take the risk. And with that, they stepped through the door, the room flooding with light that made their eyes water. Inside, the stale air carried the scent of burnt wires and old rubber. A series of malfunctioning control panels blinked incomprehensible codes. This place looks abandoned, Lisa said. But maybe we can find something useful. Jenna approached one of the panels, examining the buttons. If we could turn on the power, maybe we can signal for help or at least light up the tunnels. Lisa nodded, instinctively checking the rear for any signs of danger. Their time was running out. Do it, she urged. We don't know how long we have. Jenna pressed a button tentatively, and the room jolted to life. Lights flickered, buzzing overhead like angry bees, illuminating the dusty space. A series of alarms began to blare, a sound both terrifying and exhilarating. Yes, Jenna shouted, but Lisa's joy was short-lived. Not too loud, she hissed. They'll hear us. But this was a chance. It was everything they needed, a moment of hope amid chaos. With the tunnel now lit, they could plan their next move, but an unexpected fear crept in alongside their excitement. What would it draw back towards them? Lisa's mind raced with possibilities. We need to move quickly. Let us see what's in this room and find a way out. As they searched for supplies, the vibrations of movement reverberated along the walls and intensified, a reminder that they weren't safe yet. Just as Jenna uncovered a map tucked beneath a tarp, the distant sound of footsteps grew louder. It was the darkness returning with a vengeance. Lisa, we need to hurry. But as Lisa turned to respond, their eyes met a huge shadow looming in the doorway, blocking their escape. With adrenaline pumping, the stakes suddenly had never been higher. Would they face their pursuer, or could they find another way out before it was too late? The looming figure loomed larger, a harbinger of fate. The moment of truth was falling upon them now. Lisa's heart raced as she stood frozen, every instinct screaming at her to run. The shadow at the doorway shifted, revealing a figure she hadn't expected to see. Mark emerged from the dark, his expression a mix of urgency and relief. I found you! He exclaimed, his chest heaving from the chase. Relief surged through Lisa, but the urgency of their situation grounded her. Mark! We have to go now! Jenna clutched the map tightly in her hands, terror still etched on her face. They're coming! We're trapped! No, we're not! Mark shouted back, determination burning in his eyes. Listen, I think I saw a maintenance exit around the corner of this room. If we can just beat them to it together, Lisa asserted, her voice firm as she steadied her shaking hands. We can make it out. Time slipped away as adrenaline propelled them forward. They dashed to the corner while the sound of hurried footsteps grew closer, reverberating like thunder. The alarms still blared overhead as if to warn them of impending doom. Go, go! Mark urged, pulling the door to the maintenance area wide open. They spilled into a narrow corridor, the flickering overhead light casting eerie shadows. Surrounded by the metallic smell of rust and dust, The tight space felt suffocating but also exhilarating, a moment of pure adrenaline-fueled escape. Which way? Jenna panted, glancing wildly between the two boys. Right, Lisa decided. If we stick to the right, we'll follow the maintenance tunnel back toward the street. It has to lead somewhere. They turned, pushing through the dimly lit corridor as the sounds of chaos erupted behind them. The footsteps echoed, sharp and angry, urging them to move faster. Suddenly, as they reached a junction, they paused. A low rumble vibrated under their feet. What is that? Jenna whispered, eyes wide with fear. We need to keep moving, Mark insisted. Whatever it is, it's coming closer. As they moved on, Lisa could feel the tremble of the ground beneath her, a pulse of fear, but mixed with a fierce resolve that surged through her veins. No more hiding. No more silencing their stories. Their pasts were finally converging with the present. They burst through a door that led outside, and fresh air hit their faces like a tidal wave of hope. The moonlight scattered across the street, illuminating their path as they came face to face with the remnants of destruction. The flare they had set off earlier still blazed in the night sky, like a beacon calling for help. Look! Mark pointed. Crowds of neighbors were gathered, armed with flashlights and homemade signs, ready to stand and fight. They knew we needed backup. Lisa's heart swelled. This was not just about them anymore. This was a community rising up together. In the distance, she heard the roar of engines. The plane soared overhead but appeared distracted by the glowing flare. We need to support them, Jenna yelled, rallying to those gathering nearby. Right, Lisa shouted, her fear transforming into pride and courage. Let us stand together. We'll show them that we're tired of being quiet. As they united with the crowd, Lisa felt the electric current of solidarity shooting through. Each person around her brought their courage, their pain, and their stories. This wasn't a fight against the plane. It was a fight against the silence that had held them captive for so long. We have voices, Lisa cried, leading the gathered crowd. We will not hide anymore. We will face our fears, and we will reclaim our stories. The crowd erupted in cheers, lit up by an outpouring of resilience. Mark and Jenna stood by her side, fierce expressions mirroring her own. In that moment, they became more than just individuals caught in fear. They became a tapestry of hope, woven together by shared histories and common purpose. They were ready to face whatever came for them together. As they raised their voices, a powerful anthem of truth rang through the air. The plane circled above, and instead of shrinking away, they stood tall, the courage surging through them louder than any engine roar. This was their moment. Their fight was here. And together, they'd rewrite their story. Join this community. Join this fight for courage and unity. You must share your stories and stand tall in the face of darkness. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and show your support, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. They need to stand with us against silence. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel.